joined Staines at an early age, at the age of 8, I think it was. How did
Yeah.
you get into? How did you get into football to start with? How did that come about?
I think originally, like there was a guy who used to be affiliated to Staines, a guy called Mickey Clark, who used to run like a I think it was like a Coca-Cola, like it was like a six-a-side kids football camp thing, and you used to turn up and you'd be put into teams, and you'd just develop certain skills and play in small-sided games. And then from there I got so the junior sections formed, and I think I joined at like under sevens or under eights, whatever the earliest. A guy called Frank Dotson was my manager, and then I stayed in that team right all the way up till like under 18s. But I started as left midfielder, then moved to left back, and I think it was about when I was 12 maybe. The guy who was the regular goalkeeper was ill. I used to go and goal in training because we only had one goalkeeper, like when we'd have matches and stuff. So the manager asked me if I wanted to go and goal while this guy was ill. I played this one game and then basically stayed in goal for the rest. So I actually owe like Frank quite a lot, because the guy who was the goalkeeper was his best mate's son. But he kept me in goal because he obviously saw that maybe I had a bit more potential in that position. So yeah, and then I think I worked my way up through from under 8s to under 18s, but I played first team. I think I was 15 or 16 when I made my debut in the first team. I played like I think I remember Steve Parsons. Is Steve still affiliated with the club?
Steve is, yeah, Steve's still there.
So I think he told me that I was the first person to play in every age group, including first team.
Yeah, so that was literally what my next question was. You were the first person that Staines to go all the way from the junior set up to the first team. So how does that make you feel to be that?
Yeah, it's not. It was nice to have. It was there was a few of us, like when from our Sunday side, we were like, or from our junior side that played Sundays, we ended up being quite successful. We won like the Middlesex County Cup at under 18 in our final year. And there was a few like before that had like I'd been involved in the youth team, and then I'd been on the bench for the first team quite a few times. The season that I made my debut, which is the year they got promoted, I think, and my debut was actually at home to Bognor, which was a 2-2 draw. I think Staines needed a point to secure promotion, and Trent Phillips, who, funnily enough, was my assistant manager for the junior side, he got injured, and Chris Wainwright, the manager, there were rumours that he was going to play the fullback in goal because he didn't want to put a 16-year-old in goal in such a big game. But he did pick me in the end, and we drew 2-2. So that was a good night. My dad let me have the day off school the next day because it was a little bit worse for wear.
Again, that was one of my next questions, because what do you remember of your debut? Because obviously the 95-96 season where you first kind of came into the fold, you were playing youth team football, reserve team football, and then you made your first team debut as well.
Yeah, as I say, I remember. I think I was on the bench on the Saturday before the game was on a Tuesday night or a weeknight anyway, and I'd been on the sub for the first team on the Saturday, and Trent had got injured. And I remember just like obviously really nervous with the magnitude of the game as well. Like I knew the players because I'd been around the squad, like training and playing for the reserves and being on the bench. But yeah, the magnitude of the game, knowing you need a point for promotion, it's like the first game. And I remember being told before the game that they'd target me and put like big high balls under, like put me under pressure, which they did, which is a little bit un-Bognorish because they tend to be sort of total football. They always had been. But yeah, I remember like even like the last couple of minutes they swung a big cross in, and like I managed to catch it, and it was like when the final whistle went, it was just relief really, because obviously the one thing you don't want to do when you make your debut, and the goalkeeper is obviously a position where it'd be highlighted more, is make any mistakes. Do you know what I mean? Because especially in a game like that. So yeah, it was just brilliant. And I think I say my dad let me have the score, and then the next night we had the reserve team cup final, which I played in as well, which we won. So yeah, it was just a bit of a whirlwind. It was like none of my sort of peers had managed to make the first team at that age. So it was just like a really proud moment. And so I stayed at Staines for a long time after that, which I enjoyed every minute of it.
So I don't know whether this is true or not, but Steve sent me through all your stats, and apparently
Yeah.
he got you down as scoring in the reserves in the 95-96 season once. Do you remember that?
I don't actually, unless it was. I know we went on like a tour, like end of season tour, and we put to Jersey. So I don't know. Maybe I played on. I know I played on pitch on one of those games. So like maybe it was that.
Yeah, he's also got you down as scoring in a reserve game in the 2014-15 season that you played a game in.
No, I don't remember. I don't remember. I know. Obviously, when I played in the younger sections, like when I played on pitch, obviously I scored a few goals, but I don't remember ever. In penalty shoot, I've taken penalties in penalty shootouts and stuff, but I don't remember scoring in general play.
That's just what Steve's let me know. So
yeah, I won't question Steve though. He tends to.
So you also part of the squad that won the Middlesex Senior Challenge Cup in 96-97, so beating Yeading on penalties in the final, and you also won the Youth Cup in your time as well. What was that occasion like to play in?
Yeah, that was brilliant. Again, I think that was I think I might be wrong, but apparently that was the first time that had been done as well, to win the Middlesex Youth and the Middlesex Senior Cup in the same season. I think it was the same season. So yeah, that was again just like really good experiences. Like anytime you can get to finals and win trophies, like it's just, especially like being younger then and not sort of maybe as experienced, was just like really good to be involved with. I can't remember the games actually. Like I remember the junior one more than the senior one actually, because I think maybe because it was like that was what we'd always aimed for, as that junior section. That my manager had always said that was the aim, to win the Middlesex County Cup by the time we went to sort of under 18 level, which we managed to do. So achieving that with like people you'd grown up with was like, that was really good.
So I say you made your debut in 95-96. Season after that, more of the same. It was a lot of time on the bench, made a handful of first team appearances, again mostly reserves and youth. Then you probably broke into the first team in 97-98, but you made 54 appearances in all competitions. What did that feel like to become the first choice keeper at still quite a young age? And how did that make you feel?
Yeah, it's like just proud. I think it's like don't get many, especially then. You maybe do a bit more now, but you didn't used to get many young goalkeepers that would be sort of first team goalkeepers. I think maybe like a little bit circumstances gave me the opportunity. Like I think people left and maybe they just, it was certainly would have been the cheaper option to give me a chance, but just to throw me in there, it's like it showed a lot of confidence in me. And to learn from, we had a lot of good senior players then as well. To learn from them was like really helpful for me, like for the rest of my career. Like, so I had some real big characters in the changing room. Certainly different to what it was, or when I finished playing. Like you was almost, rightly or wrongly, you was almost fearful of some of those big characters. Like you treated them with like the utmost respect. Whereas I think nowadays, when I finished, I was doing some coaching, like people don't have any respect for sort of like seniority anymore. It's changed a lot, but I felt like I learned a lot from those people, sort of like on their experience and how they conducted themselves and stuff like that. So just a really good learning curve. And I was fortunate at that age to be given such an extended run in the team, which I think I pretty much, other than when I got injured when I was younger, I did my knee where I was out for maybe 4 or 5 months. Other than that, I pretty much was first choice till I left.
Yeah, because I say you played from breaking into the first team. You were pretty much your first choice keeper from like 97-98 to 2004-2005 season. Like you're playing the exception of 98-99, where you had 38 games in the team. Otherwise, you were playing 50-60 games a season. So
that might explain why I ended up finishing so early, because I played so many games when I was younger that I don't know whether that catches up with you, but or whether it's just bad luck as I got older. But I remember I just loved it. Like I played like even when I was like reserves, I was playing like reserve team, youth team, Sunday football, and then obviously when you get into the first team, that changes. You know, obviously I'd got too old, but you don't. But still, I'd play in every game available, like friendlies, cup games. Like there was no rotation really back then. It was just that, you know, I managed to keep the position and do fairly well. And just say I had such a great social out of it, and met friends that I still speak to now. So it was just like really enjoyable and really good memories, you know. Like I don't know if we'll discuss that later. When I left, it was maybe not the ideal way it ended, but certainly like it'll always be the club that was probably one of if not the biggest part in my footballing career and my life. I grew up down there from an 8-year-old. Like my parents, we used to socialise down there. I socialised down there, so I still got friends that now that I speak to like regularly that I met down there. So it was just like really enjoyable period.
Yes. So obviously, like we touched on, your debut as a game, obviously needed a point to get promotion, and then obviously you're playing several seasons as first choice keeper. What standout memories you got of your time from playing at Staines?
Obviously that promotion game was like massive. We had other promotions when Steve Caudry first came in. The league was slightly restructured, I think, so it was a different promotion. I think maybe like top 6 were promoted or something like that, but we managed to achieve promotion there. So we had some big, like we had a good run in the FA Trophy. I remember that. We ended up playing Halifax, we went up on a Friday, I think, got called off on the Saturday. So we came back and then it got called off again. And we ended up playing like on a Tuesday night, having to go to Halifax. We got back at like 4:00 Wednesday morning. And then the replay was at Staines on the Thursday. And that went to extra time as well. And Chris Wilder was the Halifax manager. I don't know if you know the stories that went around.
I was going to say I'd seen the incident.
yeah. So that was interesting, but sort of that period, sort of, I didn't actually have that many managers, but like from Chris Wainwright when I first started, I think went to Ken Ballard, and then finished with Steve Caudry. But I remember like some of the players that especially under Steve, like that he brought in, again, experienced players like Craig Maskell was really knowledgeable and a really good coach, and like you could learn a lot from him as well. So I say I just didn't maybe achieve. I think we won some county cups again, but maybe didn't have that FA Cup run when I was there. That was after, but things like that would have been nice to have had. But I know we had some really good times, and personally, I had some good moments. Like had some good records, like some good periods where we were, keeping a lot of clean sheets and stuff. So personally, I really enjoyed it. Maybe didn't have, that massive moment that you'd hope for, but
during your time at Staines as well, you won several awards. So I've got a list of them for you if you want.
Okay, yeah, please.
97, 98, you won the Cliff Lane Memorial Trophy. 99, 2000 and 2001, you picked up both those seasons the Player of the Year and Players Player of the Year. In the second season of that, you shared the Players Player with Steve Battens.
Yeah.
2002, 2003, you were Vice President's Player of the Year, and then 2004, 2005, again, you're Player of the Year. What was it like for you just getting that kind of recognition?
I think it's any time you get sort of, obviously you play in the team to achieve things with a team is your main. But I think from a personal, anytime you get sort of voted by either your own players or by supporters to be a Player of the Year, it's just like really proud. I think anyone that says they go into the end of season awards not bothered if they win something or not is like probably not being completely genuine. Like you want to be recognised, you want people to think you're doing a good job. And I was lucky to have won quite a few trophies over the time I was there, and it just really, really nice. Like I've still got them, like something I could show my kids now. Do you know what I mean? Like, but at the time, obviously, didn't have children and that then, but you sort of like, it's nice to have those memories and to say, look, this is what I won, and I wasn't that bad.
on the subject of a trophy, Steve said you were one of a couple of players who never gave the original Player of the Year trophy back. Did you keep hold of that one?
I can certainly look for it. I've moved house recently, so I found them all. But I did, well, if that is true, then I can only apologise. It wouldn't have been intentional. I remember. I'm sure. Like I remember, like Sally Payne chasing me for it. She used to sort of help out with the end of season awards and stuff, like organise it. I don't know if you know Sally or. She used to run the burger van, and she used to do like the social side of things. But I remember her chasing me for it once, but I thought I'd given it back. So if I haven't, then I'm sorry.
I'll send your apologies on the Steve.
Yeah, please.
Obviously, from Staines, you moved on to Hampton and Richmond. What was the reason behind the leaving? You sad to leave the club you grew up with?
Massively sad, and it wasn't a decision I took lightly. Like I would have quite happily probably stayed at Staines. I was so, whether it's a bad thing or not, I was so comfortable there, and I knew so many people there. It had been basically my whole junior life, if you know what I mean. Like I'd been there. It was part of me growing up, and the reasons I left, I was approached by Alan Devonshire, who was the Hampton manager. I'd never had a falling out with Steve Caudry, but I never got the feeling that he basically, when he came in, shipped out anyone that had an association with Staines and brought in his own players. There was no, when I grew up at Staines, there was a lot of local bias on the players, like everyone, and then we'd have there'd be a big social, like we'd all stick together because we all lived locally. There was no traveling. When Steve came in, he tried to change the mindset, I think, and he brought in players from further afield. So you lost that social side of it. And I think I was pretty much the only one left that had been there before he came in. Like people like Steve Battams, who was a great player, like he left, certain others. But so I went to Steve and I said to him that Alan Devonshire's approached me. It wasn't about money. Alan Devonshire literally offered me £10 a week more. Like, but the travelling, I literally lived 2 minutes from Staines. Hampton's not far, but it was still would have meant I was worse off probably, like with the travelling and stuff. And Steve never really made much of an effort to keep me. He just sort of said, "Well, you've got to do what you've got to do." And I thought, well, if you really wanted me to stay, then you try and maybe fight a bit more for me to stay. Like it wouldn't have taken much to convince me to stay, to be honest, but I never really got that impression. So I sort of thought, well, I think I was 25 maybe. I didn't know anyone at Hampton, but I just thought, well, if I'm ever going to make a change or try something different, now's the time, sort of thing. But it was a big decision. I remember going on holiday and I was away, and it was like just playing on my mind what to do. Like I had the offer from Hampton, and I sort of not really had a counter offer from Staines. Yeah. And that's what swayed my mind, really. Like just the fact that I didn't really feel like there was much of an effort made to try and persuade me not to go.
And then, so obviously you moved to Hampton. Then you were there for 8 years. Relatively successful your time there. Tell us about that.
Yeah, Hampton was like Alan Devonshire, totally different character. Like he was very he'd do anything for his players. Like, and I think it created an atmosphere where people would just run through a brick wall for him, as the saying goes. But like, he created such a good team spirit, and we had some really good success. Like that was probably my most successful time at Hampton. Like we won the Ryman Premier League. We got to 2 Conference South playoff finals. We lost both of those, unfortunately. But we won county cups. We got to the FA Cup first round. Just really, really successful. We had a really good team. Played a certain way that was successful for us, and just really like different. It was different from Staines. It wasn't, it was different from the M time of my Staines, but it reminded me of my early days at Staines with that team spirit and the everyone's hanging around and socialising together and stuff like that. And I think at non-league level, it's sort of underestimated a little bit that how much they social element and that togetherness can help you on the pitch, because earlier on in the Staines days and especially in the Hampton days, like everyone just got on with each other, and I think that was a large part in why we were successful.
And you picked up quite a serious injury before you left there. How tough was that for you?
Yes, it was bad. Like so in my last sort of 2 years at Hampton, I'd done both cruciates, one in my left knee, one in my right knee. And then I came back from the one in the right knee, and then I snapped my tib and fib clean in half in a reserve game when I was trying to get some sort of match practice. And I was only 31, which is quite young for a goalkeeper. But after that, it was sort of like I was getting married that year, so I was like on crutches for my wedding, and it had been 2 years really of just being injured. And they were all impact injuries as well, so it wasn't sort of like just where you feel it's wear and tear, and they were big injuries, and I just thought I can't do it anymore. Like missing out on, like, your priorities change, don't you? Like I say, I was getting married and having time off work with all the injuries and stuff like that. It just made me think I can't really do it anymore, and you lose that, or I lost that sort of little bit of. I don't know whether it's because I played so many games already and maybe, like, say, doing too much too young, but I just felt like I didn't have the motivation anymore to come back from another injury and to put myself potentially through that again. Like, I didn't want to go through those injuries again. I'd sort of had enough of it.
That's fair enough, yeah. Obviously, you mentioned earlier about the Staines Cup run. Obviously, that happened during your time at Hampton. Did you keep an eye out on the results there?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Like I say, like, although it didn't end on maybe the best terms, that not with the people in power, but maybe with the playing side of it, it didn't end the best it could have done. But I always wanted him to do well, and like to see him on telly. I know, like against Stockport, and I think it was Millwall, was it, they played as well. Just like, it was brilliant. And I still had people like Trent Phillips, who was the goalkeeping coach. Like, he's still one of my best friends now to this day. I've known him for years, so I'd still speak to people there. And obviously, I've got a lot of time for a lot of the people that have been at the club through volunteer roles. You know, Steve being one of them, for years and years. Like, and Staines would never have been Staines without those people. And you know, a lot of people like yourself, what you're doing now, like, you don't get the credit. People don't get the credit that they deserve for those. Without the people behind the scenes that do all the stuff that no one sees, like, non-league football clubs wouldn't function. There's so many, like, generous volunteers that help out in football clubs. So I've always stayed friends. Like, Staines Town Football Club still got a golf society that plays once a month from various generations. Like, I'm probably one of the younger ones, but going right up to sort of like Alan Gain organised it. He used to be a first team manager at Staines. Chris Rainwright plays in it. Just loads of different people from different eras of Staines that still keep in touch. Has always had that community feel to it, Staines, and that sort of family feel. And I think that's why, even though I left and, you know, I did well and Staines did well when I left, you still always hold like a little bit, it's sort of like a place in your heart. Do you know what I mean? Like, because you spent so long there, you always wanted them to do well. Apart from when we played each other, obviously, then
Where did your loyalties lie then?
Well, with the team I was playing for, but just also when you play against a former team as well, it's almost like a little bit to prove what they're missing, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, cause I felt like, I say, I didn't really feel like they tried to keep hold of me. So it was all a little bit of trying to sort of prove that I made the right decision, which in the early days, I think we Hampton had the upper hand on Staines, but then towards the end, Staines definitely turned the table on that one. They had the better results towards the end of when I was playing anyway.
And then obviously after your injury, you obviously hung up your boots from playing. What happened with your career following that?
So I went to Farnborough for a little while, for about 3/4 of a season, just doing some goalkeeping coaching there, and just joining in with training. I knew one of the defenders at Farnborough from my time at Hampton, Alan Innes, and he got me down there to do goalkeeping coaching, and I ended up being on the bench a couple of times for Farnborough, despite not wanting to play. And I actually had to come on one game when the keeper got injured. And then from there, I went to Kingstonian and I did a season at Kingstonian doing the goalkeeping coaching there. Similar situation, being on the bench just in case for emergencies. And I think I played one game for Kingstonian. But I didn't really, I never really recovered, like with the knee and my leg. I was never really fit and I never felt that I could have played properly, like without getting injured. Like I just felt fragile. So I just did a couple of years of goalkeeping coaching, but for me, it never really replaced playing. And because I was still relatively young at the time, I finished at 31, which is young for a keeper. And even when I was doing the coaching at like 32, 33, sort of in the back of your head, you're thinking, well, I could still do this, but then your body doesn't actually allow you to do it. So it was just never, for me, it was a big commitment. I had children, like my first daughter was born, and it was just, going out of the house on a cold Tuesday and Thursday night, driving to Kingston or Farnborough or whatever, doing it voluntarily. It was just, I had other things in my life that sort of were more important, really.
So let's say, like we touched on, you had plenty of time at Staines. If you had to make a five-a-side team out of all the players you played with, you don't have to pick yourself, but you can if you want to.
I'll put myself in there because there was no other goalkeepers there when I was there. I remember obviously like Trent. I know Trent really well. Like I'd have him as my sub goalkeeper, Trent. But I don't know. I would say Mark Fleming. He was like a great player. Like played sweeper in Chris Wainwright's teams. He was just. I think he was at Brentford and QPR, and he was just a really good player. Like it didn't like. He's only small, but he just read the game so well. Sort of played that sweeper role that he was just brilliant. So I'd have him. I'd have to say Joe O'Shea because he's another good mate of mine in the midfield. Up front, like Kezi Eby was a great player that Steve had in his side. He just had so much ability. So what's that for? One more. So I'm trying to think who else I would. I'd probably go for another defender just because obviously they were people that I was closest with in a game. But like Steve Battams was like he could have achieved so much more. I think he was really good centre back. Like and probably could have gone a lot higher maybe if circumstances were different. I know he had clubs watching him at various periods. But yeah, Steve Battams would probably get in there as well. He could play as well for a centre back. He was a big tall centre back, but he was decent on the ball as well.
Finally, you got any message for the Staines fans you want to give to them?
Just that I thoroughly enjoyed my time there, and I genuinely wish the club, like I've had a few debates on Twitter over the last couple of years with people about what's going on, but generally want the club to succeed. I hope that they can find success again on the pitch and some sort of stability with the playing side and the management side and the owners. I hope that they can get back to where they were, because it was such a, and it probably still is, such a great club, Staines, and it had such good people involved, that I just hope that they can get back to something like it used to be, and I think they just need stability. From looking from an outsider's point of view, they just need stability on the pitch. Like find a manager that they're going to stick with, try and create something, build a team, which they were sort of doing towards the end before the lockdown kicked in. The results had improved, I think, if I'm right in saying.
Yeah.
So yeah, just to try and get back to somewhere where they were, because really the league that they're in now is, with the likes of Bedfont and Egham, is not really. They've not been at that level of football for as long as I can remember. Like when I was there, we were never quite down to that level, and it's a big non-league club, Staines, and a lot of people have a lot of good things to say about Staines Football Club. It'd just be good for them to get back to sort of where they belong, really.